Do genes determine all of who you are? Are you fated to whatever future your genes spell out for you? Metal Gear Solid 1 asks us how much of us is truly us and how much of us is controlled by our genes. Liquid grapples with what it means to have inferior genetics. Naomi uses her genes to better understand who she is. There are soldiers who have had their genes augmented to enhance their soldier abilities. And a virus that targets people with a predetermined genetic makeup and ends them. Is any of this linked to fate, though? Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Luffy and welcome to my channel. I talk video games and character analysis, so if that's your thing, subscribe and stick around. Heads up, this video will have spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 1. Also, when I talk about genetics and fate, I'm talking about in the Metal Gear Solid universe. I'm not making a case for real-life genetics or anything like that. With that out of the way, let's hop into things. Liquid fights the fate he thinks his genes assigned him. Liquid, the lead villain of MGS1, has a complicated relationship with his genes. His father, Big Boss, was hailed as a legendary warrior. BB's colleague, Zero, thought it'd be a waste to waste BB's incredible soldier genes, and so he stole a sample of his DNA to clone the next generation of soldiers from, and to augment existing soldiers with to make them super soldiers. Liquid and Snavid are the clone sons of Big Boss, though from the day he was born, Liquid was told his genes were no good. Liquid is told that in order to get a clone that expressed all of Big Boss's dominant genes, they needed a clone that took on all the recessive inferior genes. Liquid is told that he's the clone with the inferior genes while his brother Snavid got all the strong, dominant traits. Regardless of whether or not this view on genes makes sense, Liquid believes his genes tell him he's destined to play second fiddle to Snavid.
Can you understand what it's like to know that you're garbage since the day you were born?
Despite this, Liquid wants to prove to the world that he's strong enough to command respect. He takes over Shadow Moses, an island that secretly operated as a massive weapons development complex. He intended to turn the island into his base of operations, named Outer Heaven, where he and his family of Genome soldiers modified with Big Boss's soldier genes, could safely conduct their business. Snavid is deployed to stop Liquid, and unfortunately for Liquid, Snavid bests him in every turn. Liquid tries to take Snavid down with a Hind D, but Snavid shoots him out of the sky. Liquid tries to end Snavid with a Metal Gear, but, with a little help from his friend Grey Fox, Snavid destroys Metal Gear Rex. Liquid even loses in hand-to-hand combat to Snavid. You'd think this was a point in the Genes Decide Your Fate column since Liquid has the inferior genes, so it makes sense that Liquid lost to Snavid. The big plot twist of MGS1, though, is that Liquid has it reversed. Snavid actually has the inferior genes while Liquid has the dominant genes. Liquid and Snavid disprove that genes control your fate. The Genome soldiers and their shifting fate. The Genome soldiers are an interesting case, as they're a group of people whose fate may have been altered when their genes were. The Genome soldiers were ordinary soldiers who were either enhanced with Big Boss's genes, or their nucleotides were realigned to mimic Big Boss's genes to enhance their senses, reflexes, and combat skills. Because these soldiers were augmented with Big Boss's genes, and Liquid is Big Boss's clone son, so they all share genes, Liquid felt these soldiers were his family. Because Liquid considered the Genome soldiers his family, he uses Psycho Mantis to mind control them, and uses them to take over Shadow Moses. Would Liquid have done this had they not undergone gene therapy to relate to him? Who knows? But if he hadn't, and only did it for that reason, then the trajectory of the Genome soldiers' lives changed the moment their genes were altered. Their fate was altered through their genes. The Genome soldiers all held a fatal flaw in the design of their genes too. All the Genome soldiers were genetically modified in the same exact way, making them all carry the exact same vulnerabilities. If one of them catches a deadly disease, they could spread it to the rest of the Genome soldiers, which would spell the end for the Genome army. As Liquid felt the Genome soldiers were a part of his family, since they all shared genetics, he was compelled to protect them.
In nature, family members don't mate with each other, and yet they help each other to survive. Do you know why? It increases the chance that their genes will be passed on to a new generation. Altruism among blood relatives is a response to natural selection. It's called the selfish gene theory.
Liquid states the selfish gene theory as to why he feels compelled to protect them. He says his own genes' desire to live on and replicate compel him to save those who share genetics with him, aka his family. The Genome soldiers bring up an interesting question. If your genes decide your fate, can you change your fate by changing your genes? The Genome soldiers were regular soldiers before they underwent gene therapy. After gene therapy, they were taken in by Liquid and even had his protection. We could also argue that this was their fate all along, though. What do you think? Do you think the Genome soldiers' fate was changed when their genes were changed? Naomi Hunter uses genes to understand her past, and FOXDIE to cancel others' futures. In a cast of characters with tragic backstories, Naomi Hunter fits right in. Naomi was orphaned when she was just 9 years old and almost starved to death on the streets because of it. Frank Yeager found and saved her and then helped her to emigrate to the United States. He left her to rejoin Big Boss's army. Now alone, Naomi had no one to contact for potentially any information on her parents, the rest of her family, or who she was before she emigrated. This left Naomi feeling as though she was missing a piece of herself. She took an interest in genetics.
But my reason for getting into genetics was true.
'Cause you want to know yourself, right?
That's right. I want to know where I came from, my age, my race, anything.
She felt genetics could potentially tell her more about her past and where she came from. Naomi clearly believes that genes tell us who we are, as she thought she could study her own to gain a better understanding of herself. Jumping off from her interest in genetics, Naomi specialized in nanotechnology-based gene therapy. She went on to create FOXDIE, a virus trained to end people who were unfortunate enough to possess the target DNA. FOXDIE is an interesting virus. As MGS asks, do your genes determine your fate? FOXDIE argues, yes. If you're unfortunate enough to possess the string of genetics FOXDIE is trained to target, your fate is to have a heart attack and die. We did a poll here on YouTube asking if y'all think your genes decide your fate, and the majority of you answered no, your genes don't define you. Hill Mushrooms commented, genes do not relate to yourself as a person. The only thing that defines who you are is what you choose to do, and not how you are biologically structured. They go on to say that Snaven had been victorious against Liquid despite Liquid having the dominant genes. What's more, Raiden, and quick spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 2, though nothing more than the good guy beats the bad guy, who was not related to Big Boss, still managed to end the exact clone of Big Boss, Solidus, in MGS2. With this track record of superior BB clones being defeated by someone with inferior genetics, it is clear that genetics do not make you better than other people. Which is really true. It's proven time and again throughout Metal Gear Solid that your genes don't define you, as people time and time again best clones designed to express skilled soldier genes. Metal Gear Solid 1 challenges what the characters within know about themselves and how much of themselves were a conscious decision and how much were predetermined by their genes. Liquid believed his genes made him inferior to Snavid and drove him to want to prove his worth through his strength, though he was ultimately bested by Snavid despite the twist that Liquid had the dominant genes all along. The Genome soldiers may still be wiped out by some unknown disease due to their genetics. Naomi is no closer to reclaiming her past. What did you think though? How much of our genes do you think plays into who we are as a person? And can you rise above your biology to be the person you want to be? Thank you so much for making it to the end of today's video. If you liked it, share it with someone who wants to know more about Metal Gear Solid lore. If you need more MGS content, check out my Patreon. I upload articles I write on upcoming videos or just thought pieces on MGS in general. Or join us in Discord. We're always talking about MGS. More importantly than that though, please take care of yourself and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.